welcome to our next build in our journey to turn Henford on Bagley into The Sims Medieval. Today we're building the mill. In The Sims Medieval, the mill is not a playable space, but you can add it to your kingdom with QP points to gain knowledge and well-being for your kingdom. I used a reference photo from fandom for this build, and since I couldn't see the interior, I gave myself a little creative freedom with the inside. One thing I really wish we could do in The Sims 4 is manipulate the terrain beyond our lots to connect rivers and streams. I think that would have made the water source for this build feel a lot more seamless instead of looking more like a pond. I used 3 different kinds of windows on this build, and I decided to use the top floor windows from Jungle Adventure because the windows in the reference photo looked open at the top of the build, and these were the closest match I could find. I also really liked the stone detail they added to the overall look of the mill. When building the water wheel, I originally thought about using what looked like a rusty tractor wheel and combining it with different debug items to create one myself. But in the end, I decided to use the water wheel from the cottage living debug menu, which honestly was probably the better option from the beginning. I was just trying to get creative with it. I had a lot of fun scrolling through the debug clutter items for this build and picking out different objects that I thought would fit inside a mill. This build honestly made me think of the Little Red Hen story, so I guess that inspired me a little bit too. I probably should have added a red hen somewhere in this build. Laughs. I had a hard time finding items for the windmills from The Sims Medieval, and the ones available from Eco Lifestyle felt a little too modern for the look I was going for, so I turned to the gallery for help. The only part one decided to keep from the gallery windmill was the fan blades. I wish they weren't metal, but it was the best option I could find. I know a lot of people use Tool Mod to manipulate and customize items even more, but I personally don't use it, so I worked with what I had in-game, and honestly I think it turned out pretty good in the end. The windmills in The Sims Medieval looked like they were built on a slope, so I had fun experimenting with the terrain tools for this build. I added rocks and tall grass in the back to give the landscape a little more texture and depth. The inside of this build was probably the most fun because I had complete creative freedom to design it however I wanted. I added a large amount of counter space, shelves for storage, and a woodworking table. Upstairs, I created a bedroom with a small table and a fireplace. For seating around the fire, I used hay bales, which I thought added a really nice rustic touch. Downstairs, I also added an indoor garden area where you could grow vegetables and anything else you wanted. I included the vertical garden planters as well. Outside, I placed a bee box and an insect house because cricket flower is something you can make in the game. I also added prairie grass from Horse Ranch, which you can harvest for different useful objects. Unfortunately, you can't really grow wheat in The Sims 4 without CC, but if you're someone who uses mods, that could definitely be something fun to look into. There are also some really great homesteading and milling mods out there, such as Little Baobab's Homestead Helper, Brazen Lotus's Mill Appliance mod, and Esrasilwai's Complete Cooking Overhaul, just to name a few. I haven't tried them out, but it is on my to-do list after I finish this journey. This build was a lot of fun to create. I'll also be doing a walkthrough with Buildina so we can get a more in-depth look at the build and see how your Sims can interact with everything. We only have 4 more builds left in our journey. the physician's clinic slash wizard's tower, the monastery, the cathedral, and the market. I hope you enjoyed this build, and I can't wait to see what the wheel picks for us next. Happy simming!